Welcome to Good Enough with the Trauma Therapist, a podcast dedicated to empowering you to take control of your life, learning valuable strategies for healing and looking at mental health through a trauma-informed lens. Get ready to feel empowered and confident in managing your symptoms. And now, here is your host, licensed clinical social worker, EMDR therapist, and certified clinical trauma professional, Jamie Vollmuller.
Welcome to Good Enough. I am your host, Jamie Vollmuller from Long Island EMDR. Hope you guys are having a really good week this week. The holidays coming up, it feels stressful. I don't know if that's the change in the new year, guys, or all the tasks on my to-do list, or just because it's the holidays. I feel like the holidays always feel more hectic because there's just so much stuff we put on our plate, right? So today I want to talk about chronic stress. And what is chronic stress, right? So some of the signs that you know that you might be going through chronic stress, guys, would be like fatigue, irritability, any disruption in your sleep, like having a hard time sleeping or falling asleep or staying asleep or sleeping too much, can all be like telltale signs that your body is feeling chronically stressed, right? So I know for me with chronic stress, it just kind of feels like a ticker that just keeps going. It's just like you just keep moving, but you don't feel any relief, right? Like you could be tired all day long. And then you go home to go to sleep and you have horrible insomnia. That's chronic stress for you, right? And that cycle just gets worse and worse. So what are some of the consequences of that, guys? So obviously, if we're more irritable, we're not going to be our best selves. I know for me, I get way more forgetful when I'm chronically stressed, probably because my brain is not really fully present. Most of our brains are not fully present if we're feeling chronically stressed out, right? So we forget things that are important. You can even have like migraines, headaches, or a sign of chronic stress, or changes in appetite. So I know if I'm having a really stressful day, I tend to go to extremes. I either won't eat all day long, not because I'm intentionally dieting or anything. It's just literally I'm so busy and stressed out that I move from task to task to task to task and forget to eat. Or you can get into the habit of overeating, and when you're super stressed and overwhelmed and go into shutdown mode, just like down that sleeve of Oreo, girl, because we all know I'd be doing that too. So how do we manage it, right? Because that's what I'm here to help you guys with. Everyone feels it during this time. How do we start to manage that so we can feel healthier and happier and start to enjoy life again? So mindfulness is a really big thing, guys. I know mindfulness is hard, or it sounds hard, but mindfulness is literally an exercise you can do right now, right? So 5 things you can see, even in your car. What do you see? You see another car, you see a stop sign, you see maybe 5 things. 4 things you can touch. Might be your steering wheel, maybe your shirt. My shirt's got a little lace on it today, so that's a little textured. And it's getting back to your senses, what you can see, what you can touch, what you can smell, what you can taste. That's what it is, right? And just being in that present moment can help you feel grounded. And that's important because when we have chronic stress, right, like you just said, we're going thing to thing to thing to thing to thing. And we're not really present. We're just going through the motions. So taking that second to just be like, all right, let me feel grounded in this room. What do I hear? What do I see? What do I smell? Can really help you to just feel in your body again. Because I know for a lot of my clients and myself, when we're chronically stressed, it's like we're up here, guys, like in dissociative land. We're not really in our bodies. And that makes it really hard. We don't want to be in our bodies because our bodies don't feel good in chronic stress. But when we're ignoring our bodies, then we're going to just perpetuate that cycle, right? And it's affecting our sleep and our eating habits and our relationships if we're irritable and fatigued all the time. So we got to pay attention to that body. Another big thing that we can do to help is exercise. So I exercise at least twice a week is my goal. Exercise can really help you to be in your body and help regulate your body. The body needs to be tended to. When we ignore what's going on in our bodies, we're not paying attention to the signs and the warning signals that our bodies are sending to us to make a change, because it's not healthy to operate in that chronic stress mode, right? So your body is giving you all of these signs of like fatigue or chest tightness or whatever you're working through. A lot of people get that IBS stuff going on during the holidays. That's an anxiety thing. And that's your body's way of telling you, hey, you're really stressed. You need to do something. And when we ignore that, it just keeps getting worse. So going to the gym, being mindful, basic self-care, guys, like it's taking a shower, like taking 10 minutes in the shower and just sitting there under the hot water for a lot of the women I work with is a big thing. So just take 10 minutes to themselves to not think and sit under hot water and enjoy that nice hot shower. My girlfriend Christy always says that she gets these shower steamers to just spice it up a little bit and make it smell like lavender in there or something. And it makes her happy. You know, that is an act of self-care, is to just acknowledge yourself, take care of yourself. You know, during the holidays, I think we see a lot of people. One thing that might help with chronic stress is setting some boundaries for yourself around how many people you're seeing. Because I know for me, being an Italian, we do a lot of things during the holidays. We got a lot of traditions. And I'm a people pleaser, so I want to see everyone. But sometimes when you stack, 5 activities on a Saturday on your plate, that's going to lead to more stress, not less. So, being mindful of who we are seeing and what activities we want to engage in can also be helpful. And how much, FaceTime can you really tolerate? Because let's be real, guys. A lot of people, socializing is a task. It's emotionally draining. It's not something they're good at. They're homebodies. They love people, but they don't want to be around them 24/7. It's a task to put the mask on and, perform for a lot of people. So sometimes overly socializing can be a trigger for chronic stress for some people. So know your body, know what works for you. And I'm not saying isolate. I'm just saying don't put 5 social activities on your agenda if you know that you're a person that doesn't handle social activities well, right? Or if you know that you're a person that social activities require a lot of mental energy and, you're feeling kind of tapped. Just prioritize what you want to engage in and be thankful for the little things that are going well, right? I think that can be really hard when we feel chronically stressed because we just feel like fire. Nothing good is happening, which is why it's helpful to pause and take that moment and take that breath and be like, okay, I understand that life feels stressful right now. And it feels like I have no control. It's how I feel. But if I look at my life, right? If I look at what's going on, I am healthy. My children are healthy. I have a good job. I like what I do. There are so many things to be grateful for, even within the fires, guys. And I'm not saying this like my life is a perfect rainbow. I mean, one of the children left the sink on the other day and flooded the whole house. So my whole house is like tens of thousands of dollars worth of damage right now. We're all going to have problems, and I can choose to fixate on, they flooded the house and the dryer broke and my shower door shattered. Like this all literally happened, guys, in the past month. Feels like Murphy's Law. But in the grand scheme, my house is still standing. My kids are still healthy. I'm still healthy. We didn't lose anything. Everyone is fine. It's frustrating. It's annoying, but I have a lot to be grateful for, and focusing on what is going right in my life instead of the little things that are beyond my control helps me to feel more grounded. It helps me to feel more in my body, and it'll help you too. If you can just take a look around to look at, what are you grateful for right now? What about the holidays actually makes you happy? What are the events that you like to do? For me, it's baking cookies. I will never skip out on baking cookies. It is a thing we do every year, and it makes me really happy. It makes my kids happy. It's a bonding thing. And in all that stress, we can find the beauty and the joy, but we do need to look for it. You've been listening to Good Enough. Please stick around after the break, guys. Got way more to talk about. Thank you for listening to Good Enough with a Trauma Therapist. This is your host, Jamie Vollmuller. If you live in the states of New York or Missouri, we'd love to work with you. New Yorkers, give us a call at Long Island EMDR at 631-503-1539 or visit our website at liemdr.com. And for those of you living in Missouri, please call Brave Counseling and Psychiatry at 573-825-6441. Visit brave-mo.com. Welcome back to Good Enough, guys. I am your host, Jamie Fulmuller. Today we're talking about chronic stress, what it is, and how to manage it, right? So before the break, we got into talking a little bit about how you can manage that chronic stress in your life. And one of the biggest things is mindfulness. And I know a lot of my clients get frustrated when I say mindfulness because they think like, meditation, like sitting in silence, like letting their thoughts float by. And for a lot of people, that's really hard. I used to be one of those people, but when someone would tell me to meditate, I'd be like, yeah, no, that's not going to work. My brain's just going to keep racing, right? This is why I love the work that I do, because it breaks the chronic stress cycle, right? The chronic stress cycle is because we keep playing on the same patterns and sticking to what's comfortable, and we're ignoring our bodies and what's going on because it feels uncomfortable. So we just keep pushing forward and it perpetuates, right? It doesn't get better until we like have a breakdown and snap and then like yell at everyone. And then our stressors decrease because everyone backs off a little bit. But what EMDR really does is help you to break those patterns so that you have the confidence level to be like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that, and not have that internal discomfort. Or that you become more aware of your body and how you want to feel in your body, right? Chronic stress is essentially us being triggered all day long, right? For a lot of my clients, that's the feeling of not being good enough. And all day long during the holidays, they feel not good enough because they're not making enough money to give the kids the Christmas that they want, or don't have the time to run around, or their house isn't perfectly decorated, or whatever it is. They're trying to meet these incredibly unrealistic standards for themselves. And they don't hold these standards, by the way, for anyone else. I know you listeners out there that you have ridiculous standards for yourself that you would never expect for anyone else, right? We all do this. We all have that inner critic voice that is way meaner to us than any example. Because I think I'm too in my head for you guys right now. Example would be when you tell that friends, right? Like, oh, it's not your fault. You deserve help and you should ask for help and you should get what you want and you're deserving of love and feeling good, right? Like if a friend is down and beating on themselves, most of us are generally going to try to help that person and say things positive and encouraging. When we get low and are in that chronic stress cycle, what our brain does is just keep feeding us more anxiety producing messages like you're a failure and you should be doing this already and you should know better by now. And that just perpetuates it and keeps us in that motion. And pausing, right? Learning to be in our bodies is a very big part of the work that I do. It's just learning to recognize your body, learning to recognize when you're starting to feel stressed, and doing some introspection of like, where is that coming from? Right? Like what is triggering me? Why is it triggering me? And gaining that insight so that we can break those patterns, right? So you don't feel chronically stressed, because no one wants to feel chronically stressed. Managing chronic stress is because our lives are never going to not be stressful, right? But I think the difference between regular stress and chronic stress is when we have just stress, right? And we're not in that chronic survival mode. We can have stress, we encounter a challenge, we go, oh, that was difficult, and we move forward, right? Like we encounter the challenge, we rise to the occasion, we move forward. When we're in chronic stress cycle, it's we encounter a challenge, we hit it, and then there's another challenge and we hit it. And we just keep going and going and going. But that's because our brain is registering everything as like a crisis, right? If you think about it, we're really just catastrophizing every little thing in our brains. Example, like we just switched EHR systems at my job. And there are some kinks, there's some perks to switching systems, as you guys all know, but there's always going to be some challenges to that. And we've had some employees that are like really frustrated with the process. But what happens when we are in chronic stress mode is we just focus on the problem rather than the solution. And when we can break that chronic stress mode, step back. For me, breaking chronic stress mode is like the analogy of seeing the trees or the forest. When we're in chronic stress, we can only see what's right in front of us. We cannot analyze the whole picture. We cannot look at things as a whole, like how everything is affected, because we're in survival mode and we're just responding to what's directly in front of us. When you break that chronic stress mode and are able to step back, you can see the forest, which will also help you to find the root of the problem, not just the issue that keeps rearing its ugly head and you keep whacking it down. You know, I've said on this show before, that's what therapy used to feel like for me. It's like, oh, okay, I have this anxiety and I'm playing whack-a-mole with my thoughts to just keep knocking them down, knocking them down and knocking them down. And that doesn't feel great. And breaking that chronic stress cycle is, instead of knocking down that immediate issue, it allows you the space to step back and look and see, like, what's really causing this issue? Why does this keep popping up? And how do we like lift it out from the roots so that it goes away? Because I don't want to play whack-a-mole. I just want the issue to be gone. I just don't want to feel that way in my body. And I know that so many of our listeners really can relate to that. They just want to feel calm and regulated and secure in themselves and not to feel like every day they're putting out fires. And when you've operated most of your life like that, it can be really hard to imagine a life where you're not chronically putting out fires. But I'm here to tell you it's possible, super possible. And when you step back out of that chronic stress mode and you're able to see the whole picture, you're able to look at the whole forest, not only do you have more of an accurate view of what's happening, right? We're less likely to internalize everything and blame every little thing on ourselves or take on all that responsibility because we can see the multiple parts that play into whatever is happening, which is a beautiful thing in and of itself. But also you're opening yourself up to so many more resources that weren't possible when you were in that narrow chronic stress mode, just looking at the two trees in front of you. And that's the beautiful part about breaking that cycle is it's opening you up to a world of so many new possibilities where you can feel regulated and you can get the help that you need. And it sounds crazy, guys, but I'm here to tell you that a lot of that is a mindset. And it's not a choice to have that mindset. I am not saying it's a choice. Some of us are, in traumatized bodies and brains, and our brains are wired to feel like there's a threat, solve the threat. There's a threat, solve the threat. It's an evolutionary thing. I am by no means blaming any of our listeners. I have totally been there. But it is your responsibility to recognize that you are in chronic stress. And when you're ready to break that cycle, to make sure that you do that. And if you're not ready, my question to you is why? What are you afraid of? Because facing the past is something that my clients will say a lot. Like, I don't want to face my past. It's too scary. Well, if you're in chronic stress mode, sweetheart, you are facing that past every single day. It is popping up for you every single day. That's why you're constantly in crisis mode, right? That's why we're putting out all these things that feel like fires. Because your past is present. You're being chronically triggered. So instead of ignoring it, if you can just look at it and say like, okay, this is how I am feeling. This is where this is coming from. And then you can see if that applies to today. If you have more power than you think you do in the situation, but you're never going to know that until you take that first step. And what I tell my clients all the time is you have overcome so much in your life. To be afraid of looking at what happened to you is kind of crazy. Like, you've been through so much harder stuff, right? You've been through the stuff that was traumatic. You can do the work to look at it and learn from it and see how strong and resilient that you are. That is what we're aiming for you to see the beautiful person that you are. You have been listening to Good Enough.
Thank you for listening to Good Enough with the Trauma Therapist. We appreciate you listening. while our host may provide some personal and professional advice. We want to remind you that this show is for entertainment purposes only. Each individual situation is unique, and good enough is not a substitute for mental health treatment. If you need a therapist and are located in New York or Missouri, feel free to reach out to us at liendr.com or brave-mo.com.
Hope you guys are having a really great holiday season. And if you're needing some help, you can give us a call. I want to remind you that you are good enough.